not that I need any more projects, but I was showing a friend of mine the picture of the chair that I just finished, which is just a cute little desk chair. And she said, do you have a desk to go with it? Because it will sell better if you have the desk and the chair. So I said, I'll work on that. And within about 30 minutes, I was in Goodwill where I found this. Now this is pretty much all you see here. There's no legs on it. It was marked as being an end table, which I find really odd, but it has a drawer up here, and then it has this big open cavity. It's not a secretary like you would think. So I'm going to reconfigure some things, zhuzh it a bit, add some paint, add legs, and turn it into the desk that will go with my cute little chair. And oh, I didn't tell you the best part, including tax, $8.55. And it is solid wood, no particle board, no MDF or anything. It is solid pine. So what a great find, and I can't wait to get started. I'll tell you what, it just keeps getting better and better. So I was so excited that I went to Goodwill, another Goodwill, to see if I could find some legs to put on this new desk. And I also went to Habitat for Humanity's Restore, which is a great resource if you've never been there before. And I saw this tabletop leaning up against a bin of wood, and I asked the guy how much it was, and he said $3. And I was like, okay, I'll take it. So that this piece of wood is actually going to dictate some of the design, because you don't want to end up spending so much in legs that you end up putting too much into the desk. So I will come up with a unique design for this, and that's how we will proceed. Before I start most DIY projects, especially if there is some level of complexity to them, I like to draw them out. And a reason why I like to do that is if I'm doing it in a room, it helps me balance out color. If I'm doing it on a piece of furniture, it helps me balance out scale. I want to be sure that the legs that I'm adding to this piece of furniture are not any bigger than they need to be or smaller than they should be. And I also wanted to show you what I was going to be doing ahead of time. So right now, this looks like it's a secretary with a fold-down desktop, but it doesn't actually fold down. So we'll have to convert that and then also add some pourables underneath here that will fold in and out, which was my husband's idea. And then inside, I'll have some hidden compartments so that you can hide desks or chargers underneath it, even the kind that are big and blocky. And so all the wires will be hidden. You can even put a power strip back there. And also, if you want to keep your paper clips and all that kind of stuff hidden down underneath your underneath this secret compartment, which won't really be that secret, but hidden anyway. So this is the plan, and then the next step is to work on the legs. This is the cute little chair that I'm trying to make a desk for today. And the first thing I did was trace the pattern on the back here and trace the pattern on the back here. And I just used a Sharpie and some wax paper. And the reason I did it is because I want to copy those curves onto part of the desk so that the two things mesh well together. I settled on a design, and it's actually one that is in the desk itself. It was surprising how similar the desk designs and some of the features of the chair were. So this is going to be the front of the desk, and then this is the side of that leg. And so my next step is to use the Kreg jig and attach together the legs and the body. I have the legs on. It did take a while. I had it all put together, and then I felt like the front was a little bit too chunky, so I actually cut these down in place. It kind of reminds me of something out of Beauty and the Beast. It's a little on the whimsical side, and I'm actually liking how it's turning out. I'm going to put a little bit of trim on to cover up some screw holes and put a little bit more bracing on the inside. Just so you know, when I did use the Kreg jig, I also glued it, and in some places I might come back also with the nail gun and just to secure things together. I wish I could tell you that I didn't have to buy wood beyond my Habitat for Humanity tabletop. However, I did. It was about $11. That's okay. We are still way low on the budget. And so what I had to cut out of it was some cleats to put inside of here to hold up my shelf. What I had left over from the tabletop was this piece, which has a hole here to put cords through, and then it has this handhold right here, a finger grip, if you will, so that when I put this front part in, I can stick my fingers down in here and lift this up easily and access whatever's down there. And then I had to cut a new top here. I wasn't planning on it, but it turned out that the other one was warped, so that does nobody any good. So I had to cut this at a 30-degree angle to match up to this. And then I cut some corbels. And the corbels are going to be on a hinge here, and they will hold this in place, creating the desktop. I'm getting ready to prime this. So I've already sanded it back to get some of the sheen off, which is going to help everything adhere better. And I filled holes, and I've given it a basic dusting, but now I'm going to use some tack cloth. I don't always use this, but today I want to. And I want to tell you a little bit about it too. You might see in directions that you need to tack things off, and it's basically cheesecloth that's coated with something that makes it sticky. That's why I'm using rubber gloves, because I don't like the stickiness on my hands, because it just doesn't want to come off. So the great thing about this is it just sticks onto all that dust and makes you have a nice clean surface. If you're debating whether you should paint the outside of a drawer or not, let me save you the thinking about that. Don't do it. And the reason is that when dressers and cabinets are built, they're meant to have very small margins, just enough to get a drawer in and out, cabinet door to shut. And once you start adding layers of primer and paint, it's not going to close properly anymore. I had put this drawer in with 2 coats of primer on, put it in the cavity, and it was so stuck I had to pound it from the back side to get it out. So what I actually ended up having to do was put this on the table saw and shave it. And then I had to sand it with 2 different grits of sandpaper, and I probably could still sand it some more. So save yourself the hassle. If you don't like the dark stain that's on something, sand it back to the natural wood color. If you can live with the dark stain, live with it, and just save yourself the hassle. Well, my desk project is finally finished. Sometimes I get to a point where I feel like the project's never going to end, and I definitely reached that point with this one, but here we are. So if you'll remember, this started as a browned end table, and it ended right about here. And this had this lift top, but it lifted the wrong direction. So I wanted to turn it into a secretary type situation. So the first thing I had to do was build legs, and I wanted to copy some of the graceful lines that I saw in the chair that I was trying to match in the first place. So after doing that, then I had to figure out how to do this desktop. My husband had the idea of making some swing out corbels. So we've got the swing out corbels right here. And then I had to switch the hinges, actually had to cut a new desktop. And so this pulls down onto the corbels. And so you have a pretty level surface for a laptop or doing your schoolwork. And then to make it really functional for today's society, I have this lift out part where you can put in your all your office supplies, but then you can also put in a power strip, and it has enough room for the big fat chargers that computers have. And there's a hole in the back there for the cables to come up onto this surface, but then there's also a hole in the back that goes all the way down out so it can go to the wall. And then it also has the built-in drawer that was already here, and I lined both the drawer and the bottom compartment with some pretty contact paper just so that there's a nice clean surface. I put on 3 coats of primer over the darkest parts, and then just 2 over the natural wood. And then I did 2 coats of chalk paint, and then 1 coat of wax. And then the brass hardware, which was actually really nice, hefty hardware, I spray painted it silver. And one thing I love about this is that over time it will wear off, and then you'll have the gold showing through, so you have this really vintage kind of look. I have that on another cabinet I did, and I just love it. I went on ahead and took the time to sand back some edges, just so that when you do have the inevitable nick or scratch, it's not going to be a train smash. So here we are, all finished. And by the way, this is a perfect piece if you have a dormer that is just like this little unused space. This fits perfectly in that kind of spot. And it's just a really cute piece of furniture. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, and follow me on Facebook and Instagram. And I hope you learned a lot. I know I did. And I will see you next time.